My name is Anna. I am a junior at UNC, and I study environmental studies and public policy. And then I am originally from near Wilmington, North Carolina, in Burgaw, and I have actually never moved in my life. So I've always lived in the same place.
Okay. Do you want me to go next?
Yeah, go ahead, Sylvia.
My name is Sylvia Roper. I am a double major in political science and contemporary European studies at UNC with a minor in history. I am a dual citizen between Hungary and the US. And I actually grew up in Greensboro, and a lot of my friends from elementary school went to Lincoln. So it's kind of my my connection to your school. But I have never moved cities, but I have moved a lot within the same city. So I guess that's my moving history.
Cool. So we kind of want to start with a fun little activity. And so if you guys can, maybe if you can stand up, or maybe if it's easier, just raise your hand. If everyone wants to like stand up or raise your hand, whatever's easier. Okay. And so we want you to stay standing if you have ever moved to, or keep your hand up if you have ever moved to a new city. If you have never moved to a new city, then put your hand down. Okay, wow. All right. So, okay, let's see. So yeah, hands up if you've moved to a new city. Okay, cool. All right, great. So now those of you that still have your hands up, out of y'all, who has moved to a new state? Okay, so it looks like we just have one person. Yeah, we have one person? Two people.
Two
okay.
people.
All right, let's see. Has anybody ever moved to a new country? Anybody? I don't see any hands. Zero. All right.
Zero. Okay.
All right, cool. Well, that's fun to see, right? Is that some of you all have moved different cities and different states, but it doesn't seem like anybody's moved different countries, and that's a big move. But it's just interesting to realize, you know, that some people, like me, they grow up in the same place their entire life and don't move at all. And, you know, your other classmates and peers, they do move and things change. And so when you move cities or move states, a lot can be different for you. And so that's just something fun to kind of recognize. So we are just a little curious. I know you had a lesson Friday, but can you tell me maybe like 3 things that you know about immigration and refugees? Maybe that you learned Friday, or you just know. Does somebody want to raise your hand, or can we? I don't know if, yeah, somebody go ahead and just shout it out. Yeah, you just, can we hear?
I think they're muted. So if you guys unmute, and maybe one of you can come up to the camera or tell your teacher,
That'd be awesome.
Yes. A refugee is when someone is more like forced out of their country by like persecution for like their race, gender, religion, and an immigrant goes for like new opportunities, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Cool, great, that's awesome. Does somebody else have something that they want to share, or that they know, or?
My dad and his family are refugees.
Oh wow, cool. Okay, so I'm sure you have a more personal experience with that. Yeah. All right. So I bet you know a lot. You know a lot. All right, great. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing. We appreciate it. So I know that you kind of had a lesson on this Friday, but Sylvia and I want to just go over some basic things that you may not have like heard of or before, just to kind of make sure that that we're all on the same page. Okay, so we kind of have a little PowerPoint just to help you follow along. Don't feel like you have to copy everything, but just, you know, it's just so you can see it. Okay,
And I can send the PowerPoint to your teacher as well.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm gonna put this in presentation mode. Here we go. All right, let's see if it works. All right, can you guys see the screen? Can you see the PowerPoint? Yeah, all right, awesome. Okay, so like your classmate said, you know, immigrants are kind of choosing to move. So you can choose to move to find work, for maybe some education opportunities, maybe because your family lives there and you want to see them. And you can also, something really important is that you can choose to go home, right? So if you realize like, oh, you worked somewhere in a different country for a little while, and then you want to go back to your original country, then you have the opportunity to do that. So that's a big difference. And then a refugee is you're fleeing from like armed conflict, or persecution. You're, you know, crossing national borders. You're recognized as a refugee, and it is too dangerous for you to return home. Okay, so you have to like find safety elsewhere. And so when people aren't granted asylum, so asylum is when a country basically says, it's okay, like you can stay here, we're going to protect you. And if you're not granted asylum from a country, then it can be very dangerous. And you're kind of in this in-between position where you can't go back home, but you don't know where you're going to go next. So just some important things. Does anybody have any questions about that? Or are you guys pretty good? You're good? Good? Okay. If you're not, then let me please ask questions. Okay. So I'm sure, you know, you kind of heard about the refugee crisis here. And so, like I said, applying for asylum is, you know, crucial. It's like for you to enter a new country and like be safe and like definitely, you know, you're going to say that that country is going to help you out. So this is just a little graph just so you can see that most of the people applying for asylum, they are coming from Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq. And so you can just get an idea of the area from which people are seeking asylum. And then a lot of these people who are seeking asylum are coming from the Mediterranean. So if you look here, like this big green bar, I mean, just look at how many people are coming. And then you also have a lot of migrant deaths by trying to come, because it is a dangerous journey. A lot of people are coming by boats and just trying to make that journey, hoping that they can seek asylum somewhere or just get out of their situation. And so people know that it's a dangerous journey, but it's so bad in their home country that they're willing to take that risk. So I think that's just important to note that, like, it's very dangerous, but people are willing to do this. They're willing to go and to seek safety. You guys have any questions about that? No? Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Has anybody ever been on a boat before? Yeah. Okay. How would you feel about being on a boat for like a couple weeks at a time? Do you think you could take it like out in the ocean? No? Anybody get seasick? I know I do. Yeah. Yeah. So just think about being on a boat for weeks and maybe you don't have enough water or food. There are a lot of people there. Do you think that you can drink salt water? No. All right. Very good. So, you know, you're running out of resources and, you know, so it's a very dangerous, just you're out in the conditions. And so, just think about, you know, that. Okay. So I have a few things because we're going to talk about, Sylvia is going to talk about Hungary and maybe a little bit about Austria and Germany a little bit. As well. So just want to kind of give you a thing. So I circled Hungary and Germany here. So migrant quotas is how much a country is willing to let a certain amount of migrants into their country. So Germany, you can see, will allow the most here in Europe, in the European Union, whereas Hungary has very few compared to Germany. However, when you look at the highest number of asylum applications, so people applying for safety in the country, you can see that's very high in Hungary and less so in Germany. So this kind of like I know we're looking at immigrants here, and then we're looking at refugees, but just, I think these are important numbers. And I think also in these graphs, the migrant quotas are also migrant can be a refugee or an immigrant in this case, just based on the definition. So I just, so also something really important to know is that there were 21.3 million refugees worldwide at the end of 2015. So that's pretty impressive number, right? To have that many refugees in the world. That many people feeling like they are unsafe and that they need to seek refuge somewhere else. That's a lot. Does anybody feel like that's a small number or that's a big number? Is that maybe more than you would expect or less than you would expect? More? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So isn't it crazy that many people just have to flee their country, their home? So, okay. And then last thing kind of about this is that in the U.S., so people have different ways, or different countries have different ways of allowing different immigrants and refugees into their countries, right? So in the U.S., we have an act, the Immigration Naturalization Act, that allows 675,000 permanent immigrants into our country per year. And there are some exceptions, but that's about the number we allow. And so our president and Congress will determine the number of refugees that are allowed into the country per year. So every year, the amount of refugees allowed in from different regions changes. But the amount of immigrants is the same. So you can see, like, this is the number of refugees here by region. And so you have like 25,000 from Africa. Something important, I'm going to be talking about Nicaragua later on. So Latin America and the Caribbean is 3,000. We have Near East and South Asia is 34,000. And then you have 6,000 just that, can be from anywhere. And so as opposed to the European Union, so Europe, laws are not the same for each country. So just because you're in the European Union, they don't have a set law for all 27 countries. So that can make it kind of difficult because everything in one country will affect another one or the ones surrounding it. So each of the European Union countries, they are deciding on their own the total number admitted for working, who they let in, who they give a visa, and the conditions you have to meet to obtain a work permit. So those are just important things, and knowing that, in the U.S., we are a very large country. All of our rules apply to the states. And we only have 2 countries bordering us, right? We have Canada and then we have Mexico. But in the European Union, you have 27 countries, right? And so they can be surrounded by, multiple countries. And what one decides will affect the ones around it. So I'm going to turn it over to Sylvia, and she's going to talk a little bit about Austria and Hungary.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so let's see. Anna, can you exit from your screen share?
Yes, sorry. Hold on one sec.
Sorry. Okay, just give me 1 second. I need to open up the PowerPoint. Okay, here we go. Okay, I hope you guys are all doing well today. Let's see, I'm going to share screen. Okay, can you see it? Everything? Yeah? Okay, very cool. Okay, I'm just going to speed through over to my slides real quick. Okay, so Hungary is a country with about 10 million people. Just a quick question, does anybody know what part of Europe Hungary is in? Is it can someone raise their hand and say, is it Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Central Europe, Southern Europe? Sorry? No? No one wants to answer?
I think we're ready to be educated.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what most people say in regards to Hungary. Hungary is located in Central Europe geographically. Like if you're just looking about where it is in comparison to every other European country, if you're talking about the European continent as a whole. However, within the EU, it's on the very periphery, on like the eastern side. So it is surrounded by Austria, Slovakia, Ukraine to the east, Romania to the south, Serbia, which is not a part of the EU, and Croatia, which now is, and Slovenia. So it has a lot of neighbors, and it's not a very big country. It takes about, I think, 5 hours to drive across, which is kind of crazy in comparison to taking about 5 hours, I guess, to get to Myrtle Beach from Greensboro. So that's a good comparison, I think, just to say how small it is. But so the capital of Hungary is Budapest, right here. And this is where most of the people who are coming through Hungary came to. However, they crossed over on the border between Hungary and Serbia because another major migration route that many refugees took was the Western Balkan route, which was going through Turkey, up through like Serbia, into Hungary, ultimately through Austria to go to Germany. So that was kind of like the main land route that people took. And then, most of these people are either taking trains or they're walking. So they had to walk a lot of places or taking really cramped trains to go to different places. And so basically like they're going up through here like with the train to Budapest, and they're kind of going through this area. Just a fun fact for you, personally, like my family is living in Sopron, so that's kind of my attachment to Hungary. But anyway, Hungary is a country of about 10 million people. I'm not really sure if I said that, but that's about half the number of like the total world number of refugees worldwide, which is kind of crazy. And then in contrast to that, we have Austria, which is a country right next door to Hungary. You can't really see it here, but Hungary is located right over here on to the west, as well as Slovakia, and then to the north, Czech Republic, Germany, then Switzerland to the east, and Italy and Slovenia in the south. And in Austria, it's a different terrain. There's a lot more mountains, not as flat because Hungary is a very flat country. And most of the refugees when they came to Austria, they would go through kind of the north, like the northeastern part of Austria through Vienna and then onward to Germany. So kind of this upper area here. So yeah, basically they both had these two countries had very different policies on refugees, I will say. And they're both very different countries. So Hungary is more of like a transit country. That's what Hungary was known as to most refugees. Most people, when they left, or while they're on the way, like they don't really like want to go to Hungary as the place. It's mainly Germany and Sweden. So that's kind of the interesting component. But I just thought this was an interesting picture because it shows that about 4 million people have been displaced so far from the Syrian conflict, whereas in comparison to like what happened in Rwanda, which I think is a very like often used like crisis to demonstrate this with refugees, was only about 2.3 million. So there is a huge amount of people basically being displaced. And Austria, I forgot to say this, has a population of about 8.6 million people, as in Hungary is about 10 million. So this is about half of their population, which just gives you, like, this is a huge number of people. So yeah, just thought that was interesting. But out of the asylum applicants, so Anna already kind of talked about this, most of the people coming to Europe for asylum are from Syria or the Middle East with Afghanistan or Iraq. But there's also a considerable amount of people within Europe itself. Kosovo and Albania are actually in the Balkans. I studied abroad in Kosovo last summer, and it's like in the southern part of Serbia. And so this is like adds to the mix that a lot of people coming for trying to get asylum are not necessarily from Syria. And so when Germany opened its borders in September of last year to Syrian refugees, there was a lot of problems where people were trying to fake passports and get fake passports from Syria to try to get in. But yeah, and on this map real quick, it's just interesting. It shows that Germany clearly has the largest amount of asylum claims, but Austria, I don't know if you can see it because of the video or not, but it has Austria and Hungary have the second largest amounts. So yeah. So what is Hungary's policy on asylum seekers, I guess? Does anybody have any idea? You can just shake your heads if you don't, and okay. So yeah, a lot of shaking of heads there. Yeah, it's different, I guess. So Hungary's policy on asylum seekers is primarily their transit country. So they had a ton of people coming in. There was a point last summer or summer of 2015 where about 10,000 people a day were entering the country. That's a huge amount of people. And so there's in order to streamline this, Hungary decided to build a border fence between Hungary and Serbia, because before that it was just open area, which is different than, I guess, the US and its borders. And so this was important because Hungary is the first country, a part of the Schengen zone in Europe. The Schengen zone means that people can travel within countries without any kind of border checks. And so Hungary basically wanted to build a wall so they could take account of who's coming into the country, and document it. And we'll get to why they needed to document them, why they needed to process these people before if they don't want to stay in Hungary, why do they have to, get processed there? We're going to talk about that in a minute. But basically they have this, and they ended up extending the border fence to Croatia over here and Slovenia. But basically it is not necessarily all a good policy, because Hungary has used some questionable methods in policing migrants. They've really basically, if anyone crosses the border without going through the legal points now through the fence, that's very it's a criminalized behavior, criminalized action. And there have been clashes between Hungarian police and the people coming in. So it's just been very controversial. The prime minister, unfortunately, in Hungary, in my opinion, uses a lot of anti-immigrant and anti-refugee rhetoric. So it's not the best climate situation in Hungary towards asylum seekers. But yeah, so I'm going to try to get this video to work. I'm not sure if it's going to work, because me and Anna tried to have it work when we were practicing this. And this basically explains the Dublin regulation, which is why Hungary and a lot of periphery states like Italy and Greece have to deal with immigrants or refugees who are coming to their countries first, rather than just letting them go on to Germany. So I'm going to see if this works, and